Welcome to the Good Leadership Podcast, where we explore the stories, strategies, and insights of thought leaders who inspire us to think differently and lead better. Today, we're diving into a concept that redefines what it means to build high-performing teams, the Smart Tribe. Joining us is Christine Comaford, a powerhouse in leadership and culture transformation. With over 35 years of experience as a leadership and culture coach, Christine has helped organizations navigate growth and change with remarkable speed and clarity. She's also a New York Times bestselling author, a serial entrepreneur, and a human behavior expert who specializes in applied neuroscience. In this episode, we will answer the questions why some teams thrive while others struggle to survive. Christine will also unpack the neuroscience behind high achieving teams, sharing practical ways to shift your team from reactive chaos to unstoppable cohesion. Through her experience in guiding organizations from dysfunction to brilliance, Christine reveals how focus, clarity, and accountability form the pillars of high-performing teams. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Good Leadership Podcast, where we engage with esteemed thought leaders and explore research-backed strategies and techniques that empower leaders at every level to achieve meaningful results that drive lasting change. You use the term smart tribe to describe high-performing teams. What distinguishes a smart tribe from other teams in terms of mindset, behavior, and performance?
Thank you. Great question. So we call it Smart Tribe because we have the majority of people in their smart state. So we have two states. We have smart state, high collaboration, clear communication, deep emotional engagement, awesome innovation. And then we have critter state, like a little animal, safe or not, dead or not, fight, flight, freeze, very primal. And when we've all been in critter state, like if someone cuts you off on the freeway, whoa, right? You get to that pure raw survival. When we're there, massive stress, etc. The best part of being human, the prefrontal cortex, shut down. Hard to make good decisions. Forget innovation. Forget emotional engagement. We are in pure raw survival mode. So we want to do all we can as leaders to get people in and keep them in the smart state.
Well, and then the essential characteristics. Let's unpack a few of those of a smart tribe and how leaders can identify whether their teams meet this criteria.
When we help people understand how to be a tribe member with a mission, a purpose, a vision, here's where we're going together, and values, here's who we are together, then people know how to behave. And when we know what the code of conduct is, if you will, in the tribe, then we can assure that we are safe, that we belong, and that we matter. And when people experience high levels of safety, belonging, mattering, their performance goes through the roof, their productivity through the roof, emotional engagement, etc. So I know leaders sometimes think, well, let's be, intellectual because it's all a mental exercise, but 90 to 93% of all of our decisions, of all of our behaviors are dominated by our emotional brain. We need to make sure that we honor the whole being and we pay attention to have we created enough and sustained enough safety, belonging, mattering in our culture. Otherwise, sayonara to performance.
Well, there's so many essential characteristics to this. How can you help leaders really identify whether their team meets this criteria or not so that they know of how much work they have to do moving forward?
Yes, thank you. So, what we do is a 10-question assessment. 3 questions on safety. The employee, the associate doesn't know that they're safety questions, but they're questions helping us uncover, does this person feel safe here? So 3 on safety, 3 belonging, 3 mattering, and then 1 net promoter to give us a feeling for, wait, what's happening in the culture? And, Charles, one of the biggest things I see, actually 2 of the biggest things I see that erode a culture, that take people out or prevent people from getting in to their smart state is people don't have a career path. They don't have an individual development plan. They don't understand. I should stay because the company's investing in me. Here is specifically how I'm going to grow. But also, and I know it might sound so fundamental, not getting enough appreciation. And our go, 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 we're forgetting to appreciate and acknowledge people and hold them to a fair standard. You can't hold a junior person to a senior executive's standard. That's crazy. right? So that gives them a feeling of not mattering, and there goes the revolving door. If people don't matter, why should they stay here?
I'm completely in agreement with that. We are in execute mode all the time. A lot of leaders are, and they forget to take time to reflect and to appreciate others throughout the day and within their teams. I love how you combine neuroscience with all of this practice. And I love to get a little bit deeper dive into the brain because there's really three essential parts of the brain. And that first part is the brainstem. It sits at the base of your skull, and it's commonly called the reptilian brain.
So here's the thing, the brainstem, the reptilian brain, is responsible for life support, breathing, temperature regulation, balance, pretty basic stuff. The next part of the brain, mammalian brain, and this is the triune brain theory. There's a bunch of different brain theories, but just for the sake of leadership, I find triune works best. So the mammalian brain, that's where we have our emotion. Now, here's the important thing. Notice that there's a lot of emotional centers. The primary emotional center in the brain is often the hippocampus, which is also where we have learning and memory. So if we're in deep critter state and we're kind of shut down, we're not going to remember things. Think about when you've had people not able to remember things, not learning effectively, etc. It's because they're under massive stress. So the reptilian brain is saying, am I dead or not? It's not saying, am I alive or not? It's saying, am I dead or not? The mammalian brain is saying, friend or foe, friend or foe? Am I safe? Do I belong here? Do I matter? Then the prefrontal cortex within the neocortex, the third part of the brain, is where we say, what can I create? We want people in. What can I create? With a balanced emotion and knowing that they are safe enough.
Thank you for providing that explanation of the triune brain because you define that critter state as that reactive mode driven by fight, flight, or freeze, which is that reptilian part. And then the smart state as a space for really innovation and growth. So, explain kind of those two states in terms of brain function and their impact on team performance.
When Einstein created the theory of, or discovered the theory of relativity, he said that first he saw it, then he could speak about it, then he could actually write about it. The key part of our brain that is involved in innovation, creativity, etc., is the insula. Here's the tricky part. The insula is where we also hold hurt feelings. I think all of us know somebody who had like a really difficult divorce and they're still grumpy about it 10 years later. Insula. So here's the problem though. Hurt feelings, and I know people might be saying, Christine, we're not responsible for people's feelings at work. Uh, just a sec. When we have deep hurt feelings, unfairness, well, why did he get promoted? Why did she get that cool project? This is why we have to have an individual development plan and we have to be showing people how they need to grow and how we can help them grow. When we have the insula tamped down, there goes innovation, there goes emotional engagement. So we have to see the person as, frankly, an emotional creature. And our job is to enroll and engage that emotional creature so that they can soar. Because emotions are to people as wings are to a bird. We need to understand the profound role of emotions in life in the workplace.
So we've talked about the smart tribe, some of the characteristics. We've talked about the different states, the smart state versus the critter state. Love to jump into some of the accelerators that you mentioned to build brilliant teams. And the first one is focus. Describe for us those three dimensions of focus that are so important.
Yes, for focus, we have to actually be here. We have to be present. And so often we're in like this glorious future, but we're not paying attention to what we have to do right now to get there. So be present, be real. Okay, here is the state of the world. Let's acknowledge that we have in the US, we have a huge engagement problem. So let's just be present to and realistic about what's happening here. And then let's understand what are high value added activities for each role and what are low value added activities, and let's prioritize the high, because we all know good work is rewarded with more work. And there's an infinite amount of work. So we need to teach people how to have high priorities, low priorities, but understand that there's only so much energy. So we recommend a high value, low value assessment. It's real quick, 2 columns. What are your low value added activities, and what percentage of your time do you spend on them in an average month? Because days and weeks vary. What are your high value added activities, the things that really make a difference, that move the needle, that you're really good at, that are totally aligned with the value that your role provides? What percentage? It's kind of a critter state meter, Charles, because if a leader or even a team member isn't in at least doing at least 70% high value added activities, they're spending too much time in critter state.
And it's so hard for leaders to be present in the here and now. This means that if you're not in a meeting, you're listening, you're in the past or the future. Any tools or techniques that you can give leaders listening to say, you need to stay more present in what you're doing, whether it's listening to a colleague, whether it's in a meeting, or whatever it is, so that you're not jumping from the past to the future and spending very little time in the present.
Yes, thank you. Great question. One of my favorites is to really listen to the person and to ask yourself, because I know people like to have a dialogue going in their head. As you're listening to them, get curious. What is it that they want from this interaction? Are they asking me for more safety? Do they need more information, etc.? Are they asking me for more belonging? Do they need a deeper connection with me? Are they asking me for validation, acknowledgement, appreciation? Is it mattering that they need? Because if we can listen to the emotional subtext beneath the conversation and we can just give them a little smidge of that, safety. I've got your back. Hey, let's create a plan, a backup plan, and a backup plan to the backup plan. We are in this together. Great word. Hey, we're doing this together. We're in this together. Gives all three: safety, belonging, mattering. If they want more belonging, hey, who else can we bring onto the team? I'm so glad you're on the team. How can we help the team thrive? Okay, now you're part of the team. You're belonging with them. Mattering. Wow, I really appreciate your contributions, etc. I totally trust you. You're the best person to run this project, all that good stuff. That helps us stay present because we're really paying attention to what the person needs from us.
You're right, and it provides that connection. If you're not present, you're not gonna have that connection, that safety, belonging is not gonna be there, and that's a critical benefit for staying present in those situations. And then that other dimension of focus where it's just to be real. A lot of leaders also kind of go into this wishful thinking mode, right? Instead of
Yeah.
grounding their understanding, their reality into what's happening right now. And how would you help them provide that clear distinction between envisioning an outcome versus just wishful thinking?
Yes. Here's the thing, and I know you've experienced this, we all have. When someone isn't being real with us, what happens to our trust of them, right? You're like, wow, they're like, la, 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 they're denying. I don't feel safe moving forward with them because I think they're going to go off the rails. Or I don't think they realize that, a tsunami is coming, whatever. So if we want to build trust, and I know I'm a broken record on this, but it makes all the difference. Safety plus belonging plus mattering equals trust. So to be real, that's where we have people do the high value, low value assessment. And then we go, whoa, the majority of my team has mostly low value added activities. No wonder they're not excited about their work. And the high value, low value, every 90 days. Seriously. That way we can be real. Also, the first time you do a high value, low value added assessment, it's a little jarring because you're going to find that you have people doing redundant work, or they're still doing something you asked them to discontinue 6 months ago, but they weren't present and they didn't hear it. So we always do this with a let's work on this together, but also another way to really be real and present is when we communicate with someone to say, hey, could you echo back what you just heard? Because not them, I want to be a better leader and I'm working on my communication. Could you echo back what you heard? Because I want to make sure I gave you a complete spec for this project I'm giving you. We have to take responsibility for How present are we being? How effective is our communication?
You also mentioned our system does a lot of deleting, distorting, and generalizing and every second of the day. And it's not necessarily bad. If we didn't filter out or delete, we'd be just overwhelmed with everything that's coming at us throughout the day. The problem comes when we delete things we don't want to see, hear, feel, or deal with instead of just dealing with them. So give our leaders some insights into, yeah, the deleting, the distorting, the generalizing is good, but we don't want it to go to a certain level.
Yes. Okay. So deletion, let's talk about that first. There are over 40 million bits of information coming to us from Google's research, coming to us every minute. Of course we delete. We'd be nuts otherwise. No one can pay attention to everything. Think about a time when you wanted to buy a new car. Let's just say, I don't know, a silver Prius. And suddenly you started seeing silver Prius everywhere. Did everyone start driving their silver Prius in front of you? No, they were there, but you were deleting them because it wasn't relevant. So our brain deletes. That's okay. However, when we delete the fact that we need to create an individual development plan, especially for our rock stars, and then they quit because they didn't have one because they got a better opportunity somewhere else, that's when we realize, man, I knew I should have dealt with that. I pushed it to the side. I chose to delete it. Now I've got a problem. So deletion comes back to being real, high value, low values. What do I need to pay attention to right now at any given moment? And it's very helpful to just pause and say, what are two things I need to pay attention to in my personal life? I'm going to go hike the Swiss Alps in 2025 summer. And I thought, oh, I'm super fit. Great, no problem. And then I thought, maybe I should just do a quick cardio assessment. And I did it and I realized my cardio is something I've been assuming was great. It's not. I'm not going to do okay in the Swiss Alps. I need to stop deleting that and get a cardio program so I expand my lung capacity so I don't totally choke on the Alps. Distortion is when we blow things out of proportion. Everyone has had a teenage moment or seen a teenager say, I'll never go to school again. I'll never such and such. Now, distortion is helpful if our servers go down and we're a financial services company and no one can do any trades. Distort like crazy. All that matters is getting the system back up. Generalizing is when we say, oh, everybody is like that. Pointing is rude. We make these vast, oh, the finance people are all bean counters. They don't have any creativity. Not true. That's a generalization. That's putting everybody in one box. As leaders, we need to catch ourselves when we do those things.
Well, it speaks to distractions as well, that it helps you to decide what to ditch, what to delegate, and what to defer. Because especially for new managers, and I would argue for managers at all levels, they still have issues with this process. Well, let's move to the next one, and that's the next accelerator is clarity. What steps can a leader take to ensure clarity in their communication, both in expressing their needs and ensuring their teams understands their expectations?
Two different things. One, it's really helpful to do the echo back that I mentioned to make sure that there's a complete delegation, that there's a handshake, you know, but then also often leaders will delegate. And if they do the echo back, okay, that's great. But then they're just like, off you go. And they don't check in to make sure that person didn't get into a delete, distort, generalization loop and go off the rails. So to truly empower people, we need to have effective delegation, but then we have to check in as well. Second, the outcome frame. We have to understand what outcome, what are we solving for? You know, why are we even doing this? uh, and the outcome frame is a series of 6 questions. The first is, what would we like? Something we can create and maintain. Okay. What would we like more strategic time, for instance? What will having that do for us? What will the benefit be? Well, we'll be more engaged. We'll add more value to the organization. We'll be more excited to come to work, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Third, how will we know when we have it? What proof is going to show up when we have this outcome we wanted in question number one? So, what proof will show up when we have more strategic time? Oh, well, we'll have whatever, 5 to 15 hours of more strategic time per week, which is what our clients get all the time. Okay, here comes the juicy question number 4, the ego question. Number 4, what that we value might we risk or lose? What side effects might occur? To get more strategic time. Shoot, I'm going to have to get out of the weeds. I'm going to have to delegate more. I'm going to have to invest time cultivating my people. They aren't going to magically cultivate themselves. I'm going to have to let go of control, which everybody loves. Okay. And then number 5, when, where, with whom would I like this outcome? Or would we like this outcome? And then number 6, what are your next steps? So we can use the outcome frame as a team to get total clarity on a project. We can use it one on one for somebody's career development. We can use it to solve problems. We can use it in our personal life. The outcome frame takes somebody also when someone's in critter state, it takes them from their creature neurology into their prefrontal cortex. It's a great asking questions activates the prefrontal cortex. So they get out of panic and freak out and into, what would I like? What will having that do for me? So it's a beautiful tool, super helpful.
Well, and you're right. Being clear is essential to leading. And when we're clear, we feel aligned and energized. Our team feels motivated because they have explicitly stated expectations. Why do you feel being clear is sometimes so hard for leaders to do?
I'd like to say that more companies, or I'd like to see more companies actually live their values because everybody creates these values and they stick them on the wall and then they don't live them. If we live our values, then there's more trust. If we live our values, then we have better decision making because junior people can say, wait a sec, before I make this decision, is it honoring the values? And also, we erode trust when we say one thing but do something else. So, a big part of clarity is congruence consistently, right? Our actions and our words are aligned.
And I find that being true, being clear means that we need to take the time to discover what we need, to articulate it clearly, and to be sure that the other party really understands it, which is that critical step that many leaders feel or haven't explored enough or spent enough time in. I love how you unpack clarity into 3 domains because it really provides more insight. Perhaps you can give us
Yeah.
just a high level overview of those 3 domains.
Yes. So, it's words, it's vision. We're going here, and my words are backing that up. My words are also backing up my values, the company's values, and then also intentions. So it's probably the easiest is to think about, am I saying what is true? That's back to the be real, right? If you have a bad quarter, you have a bad quarter. Say it. Hey, okay, this quarter did not work out so great. Let's do an outcome frame and figure out what we would like next quarter and turn this ship around. So the words, the vision, the intentions, the actions have to all be congruent for people to feel that they're clear and they understand where we're all going together.
You also mentioned of the 5 types of communication, only 2 move results forward, and those are requests and promises. So to make sure you focus on those and training your team to do the same.
Yes. Will you do this for me by Friday at 4? Oh, let's mention that for one sec, because I know we're going to talk about accountability in a minute. We often give assignments in a way that doesn't work for the brain. The brain needs specificity. Please don't say this is due Friday. Please say Friday at 4 p.m. You know, can I have a report of sales ascending in an Excel spreadsheet, ranked by product and alpha on customers, right? Be specific, but you've got to give people a date and a time. You create a little miniature critter state. Oh, it's due Friday. Well, is that Friday at 9 a.m.? Is that Friday at 8? Is that Friday end of day? When Friday? I don't want to get in trouble.
You also mentioned in this part is which I love, and it's an MBA is optional, but a GSD is essential, and the GSD stands for Get Stuff Done.
It's all about results. It's not about burnout and spending a zillion hours at work. It's back to the high value added activities, right? What moves the needle? And back to what you said earlier, what can we ditch? or delegate, or frankly, just defer for a while. We don't have to do it all now.
Let's move into the next accelerator, and that's accountability. Talk to us about the accountability equation.
Yes, and here it is back to clarity and communication. When the assigner, the leader, says, "Here's what I'm expecting from this particular project," and the owner of that project, the person delegated to, says, "Okay, I get it. I will do that by Friday at 4, whatever." And there are rewards or conversations or consequences if it's not done, then we get self ownership. We get high accountability. Our clients love weekly status, and it's really easy. What did I do this week? What didn't I do and why? That helps you understand if there's dysfunction in the system or if you are over delegating and people don't feel safe saying, "Just a sec, can I move that off?" Right? So what did I do? What didn't I do and why? Okay? What were my wins? Like, what am I really proud of that I achieved? And then what am I going to do next week? Keep it simple. Have a standard time that that's due, because that also helps us know. And I also like to have just a quick little set of bullets of long term projects. Okay, so these long term projects, just, 5 bullets of each long term project, for instance, one for each. Okay, this one's in process. This one's on track. This one I haven't gotten to, but my start date's not till February 1st.
Love that accountability equation. Clear expectation plus owner agreement plus personal rewards and the consequences equals self ownership and high accountability. Because if you don't have it, you mentioned trust can be broken at 3 different levels: at the capability level, the commitment level, and the character level.
And the character's tricky, right? Because if someone keeps breaking commitments, you start to wonder, who is this person? That's and when somebody kind of breaks trust, it takes a while to rebuild it.
The other thing to mention, though, too, is that when you're building accountability, you got to make sure that the ego is not triggered, because the ego triggering, you have 3 different areas in which that can be triggered, questioning someone's significance or competence or liability. It's so you have to be careful and kind of walk tenderly in that area as you're trying to build this accountability culture, correct?
Yes, and that, Charles, is why it's so great to say, "Can you help me understand?" We don't want, and we don't want to say, "Well, repeat back what I delegated because you might have messed it up." No, the leader has to be the one who's humble. "Hey, I want to be a better leader. Help me understand how I can communicate better with you."
How about for distinguishing between holding yourself accountable and holding your team accountable? Are there differences and best practices for each?
Frankly, I think having an accountability partner, especially for a leader who might not be at the point or the level where they're doing a weekly status, having an accountability partner is huge, because some leaders aren't all that accountable on a weekly basis to someone. They're accountable maybe quarterly, but those weeks add up to quarters. So it's super helpful, I believe, to have an accountability partner, a peer level accountability partner in a different department that you trust, where you can share kind of, "This is what I did, this is what I didn't do, and why. This is what really rocked this week. And here's what I'm gonna do next week. And here's how I'm doing on these long-term projects." Because when our team does their 90-day recurring high value, low value, we have to do it too, because some of our low values we need to move off, right? Some of our high values we might need to spend a lot more time on.
You're right. Success with accountability requires that we help provide structures and containers so our team can stay in their smart state. Trust and ego flare ups put us back into our critter state. So try to minimize those whenever possible. I hope this episode has provided you with valuable insights. If it has, I ask you to share it with someone who would also benefit from it. If you've been enjoying and gaining knowledge from this podcast, then subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find all the previous episodes of the podcast and additional learning resources. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify and leave up to a 5-star review.